When looking for the king of podcasts, you're at the wrong channel.
Well, excuse me!
Looking for good ideas for life? You're far from good hands.
Hey, bud, what's your problem?
If you think the listener is always right, you're far from the right place.
Out of order! Even in the future, nothing works!
Hosted by a Northeasterner by birth, but a rebel by choice.
Are you threatening me?
If you want a host that floats between love and madness,
and we know the night is always gonna be here anyway. Thinking of you's working up my appetite, looking forward to a little afternoon delight.
then play on and listen to Crazy Train Radio.
All right, guys, listen to this blues riff and B. Watch me for the changes and try and keep up, okay?
Warning, creators of this game do understand the subject matter may be offensive to some, but they do honor the families and people that have been affected by these real-life tragedies that these individuals have caused. Want to play a game?
Oh, yeah!
Lover of true crime?
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, we got an interesting game for you to check out.
Wow.
With the mashup of influences such as horror movies, collecting cards, and RPGs.
What?
Led to giving birth to an incredible creation of this game, Killers, the card game.
You are all my children now.
This game is a collectible trading card game featuring some of the most infamous killers, with tidbits of trivia on the back of each card to help you learn some insight to each criminal.
Who the hell are you?
Let's not forget, during the game, cops will be chasing you and these criminals.
I'm a cop, you idiot!
However, check out their website listed through all social media today, which can be found under Killers, the card game.
Am I on the internet?
I want to play a game.
Hi, this is Anthony DeLongis, and you're listening to Crazy Train Radio.
Hey folks, it's your least favorite host in the podcast world, Croc, Jonathan Steele. And boy, do we have a good one for you today. Sitting here with world-class practitioners to discuss their lifestyles in their disciplines, to teach about mindset, training, and fighting methods in the martial arts, so folks can grow from their wisdom. Now, before I introduce our panel, I do want to give a warning disclaimer because these guests are highly trained experts and masters of their craft. They take many safety precautions to mitigate the risks involved in the practice of their martial arts. All training methods and fighting strategies discussed in this episode should not be attempted without qualified supervision and training with professionals. Now that we got the disclaimer out of the way, let's start with Mr. John Hackleman. He is known as the Pitmaster, and he was actually showing us a lesson going on in his school when he joined the room. He's trained folks like Chuck Liddell and many others in the sport of MMA. John, welcome. How are you?
Hey, thanks. Fantastic.
Awesome. And I should mention, I appreciate this man from the research I've done. He is the pride of Honolulu, Hawaii. So, aloha.
Aloha.
Next one, Michael Hawley. And I have to credit Mr. Brian Young for connecting us, who is a historian and movie expert that I know. But Michael is a 7th degree black belt in Aikido, and his trainer, I would say you're, correct me if I'm wrong, and that goes for everybody, but Michael, you would be a 3rd generation Aikido student because your trainer, Roy Suenaka, and I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing that, was trained by one of the founders of the modern version of Aikido, correct? How are you, sir?
Yes. Hello. Yes. Morhei Ueshiba was the founder of Aikido, and one of his students was Roy Suenaka, and he was my instructor.
Yes. So, and it was funny, on a side note with Michael, and I'm definitely going to be doing a separate episode with him, and I'll be in touch with him because for everybody who knows, I am a history guy, and hence I'm connected with Brian. And it came up this morning in another conversation I was taping with a actor who was involved with a project on Jack the Ripper. Now, Michael has a history background and has done a lot of research on Jack the Ripper and such, been involved with the History Channel. We'll save that for that episode, but it was just full circle that connection happened this morning and last night. So, Michael, thank you.
You bet.
And the last one, last and not least, I was happy this one said yes. And he is away for a seminar in Chicago. He was doing some teaching today and is joining us right after that. But he is a 1992 Barcelona Gold Medalist for the US Middleweight division as a demonstration sport for Taekwondo. He has also won 2 medals at the Pan American Games, gold in 87, silver in 91. He's also won bronze medals in 87 and 91 in World Champions. And he's won a couple other U.S. championships as a middleweight in 86 and 87. Master Herb Perez. Thank you, sir. How are you?
Always good. Pleasure to have you, and I'm glad to see the Pitmaster here. Haven't seen him in a bit. But what a great panel. Thank you for inviting me.
Appreciate it. And it was funny. I will say this to John, that it was funny when we were waiting for everybody to join. I mentioned John was going to be with us, and Master Perez was like, oh, wow, that's I was excited that it meant when I mentioned John's name to be a part of this. So where to begin? I guess I'm going to go a little backwards with the notes. So we go into this. For each one of you, what is the true meaning of martial arts? Because there's many different directions we could go with. There's the literal meaning, but also training the body, developing character, and developing principles. And each discipline has their own different variations of that. So,
yeah.
Is there somebody who'd like to start? I'll leave it to.
I'll start.
Okay.
I martial arts. To me, martial arts is literally. I take it literal, so I feel like it's always preparing for the fight, and the fight can come at any time. The fight can be. The fight can be on the street. The fight can be somebody breaking into your house. The fight can be in a cage trying to win a title. The fight can be, in Olympics. The fight can be, trying to fight a disease. A fight can be not getting bullied at school. Whatever the fight is, I think the martial artist is the alpha male of the world, and we're the ones that have to be prepared for the fight, because we're the ones that we're gonna we're not only gonna, but we're expected to be able to defend ourselves, our families, our communities, et cetera. And we have to be ready for the fight. And the fight can come from all different angles. We have to be ready for them, whether it's somebody jumping us on the street or, breaking into our house at 2 a.m. to, picking on one of our kids at school, so the fight comes in all kind of different ways, but we have to be prepared for it. And if we're not really martial artists at all. We're partial artists, right? So I feel like being prepared for everything, any fight that comes our way, we're the warriors. We're the modern day warriors. And if we're not, then we're not really martial artists. We're just wannabes. So I take being a martial artist, very, very seriously. I have since 1970, and I wake up every morning, not only thanking God that I'm able to, but I wake up every day and I train, just for the fight. I'm fucking grandpa, and I'm not planning on getting in any kind of competition, but I'm ready if a fight comes, and my family knows that. So that's what a martial artist is to me. Bing.
Michael or Herb?
Who's next?
I'm going to go
Michael
Herb.
Herb.
Tell me, Herb. He's an Olympic gold medalist.
Herb.
I want to hear.
So, I mean, the pitmaster and I share very many of the same thoughts, and there are reasons for that. So I believe, I came up much as he did in a tough area, and was forced to learn martial arts to defend myself. And there was a practicality to that. And what I learned from that was, I've said this to the pitmaster, and I'll say it to you guys, life is a macrocosm of the microcosm of the individual you are in martial arts. So how you are as a person is how you'll be in the world, and how the world is, and how you interact in it is how you'll act with yourself. So it refines you and hones you so that you are prepared should you have to defend yourself, whether that's physically, intellectually, or in other ways, to handle that challenge. And, today I'm at this seminar where they're certifying international masters in my sport. And so I'm one of the presenters, and it was interesting to listen to the different ideas on what they thought it was and how it all kind of worked. But at the end of the day, martial arts was originally started as a way of coping with the realities of martial warfare. And through that, you became a better person. So when we talk about the life skills and the development as the person honing that sword, it comes through the practice. And the practice originally was contingent upon the ability to defend yourself and defend others. And if you couldn't do that, then you weren't a martial artist. You probably weren't alive. So I still try to maintain those core values in my training and my preparedness. I'm old now. I'd like to believe I can still defend myself, but I still train and I still explore what it is we do. There may be some modern realities to that, meaning the skill set that I teach my students is more diverse and more modern in the sense of how to deal with conflict. But at the end of the day, it's about being able to kick or punch or do whatever else you can do to survive a physical assault at some point, because that is part of it. There are many ways to develop life skills and many ways to become a better person that you don't have to do martial arts to do that. But martial arts, I think, first and foremost, is the physicality that develops the individual that has the common sense to use or not use their martial art to defend themselves.
Michael?
Yeah, both are excellent, and I agree with both. And in Aikido, we talk about the loving protection of all things. Aikido to harmonize your spirit and your energy. And Suenaka Sensei, he was from Hawaii, and then but he was when he was raised, it was a different kind of world. He used to fight all the time, and then it kind of when he got into the martial arts, it really helped him with his own personal uh, demons in a way because of his anger. And so he really developed that in a sense of that protection of all things. It's a family. Ohana is what Sensei used to talk about. And I see that someone has a T-shirt that says Ohana. So it's really interesting that the Pitmaster has that on. So, but right there, yes, there it is. And then and he really passed that on to us. And for me personally, what it was is I was raised in a family of boxing and wrestling, and that was it. And I enjoyed those things. But what and kind of in the martial arts, we talk about the striking arts and the grappling arts, kind of two separate areas. And I had felt that I had acquired both those, but I was looking for a little more connection to that. And that's where I had seen Aikido when I was in the Orient. And then Steven Seagal, he popularized Aikido a little bit more, although he kind of went a little more movie magic afterwards. But it was really something that what we try to instill in our students is that loving protection. And it's it kind of develops, gives you a self-confidence, especially the martial way. And but I kind of still agree with what both your other guests have said.
Now, obviously, you mentioned, I know the Pitmaster started off with this as far as bullying and what kind of battles we all may deal with in life, whether it's combat, health, bullying, whatever the case may be. But a big topic the past few years, and rightfully so, has been mental health. So with everything you guys have said so far, how has martial arts training helped not only yourselves, but also your students in terms of, I guess, combat, but not only combat, but the repetitive discipline of the education of your particular arts? How has that helped in a positive way for people's mental health and yourselves?
I'll go first again, I guess. We're gonna go. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, it's there's a very spiritual side to it, and that comes from you or not, And some people just take it as a bunch of punches and kicks, and don't really go much further. They don't usually, they're not usually the great martial artists we see. And then there's some guys I've been fortunate enough to work with, like Chuck Liddell or Glover Teixeira or Court McGee, and guys like that are the true, modern day warriors through and through. I mean, they're going to protect their family. They're training, they're showing they're not showcasing as much as they're putting their skills on the line on the highest, stage, available, like Herb did in the Olympics. Well, what's higher than the Olympics, So this is, they do that, and I'm lucky enough to realize that's that is our goal here at the Pit. Anyway, we are Ohana. I'm from Hawaii. Terrible place to grow up as a white kid, but whatever. I'm gone. It made me who I am. But so I think the warrior spirit, is in us all. But there's unfortunately there's some bad eggs even in our, we try so hard to instill discipline and humility, and confidence and kindness in our art. And, we're lucky enough to have it for the most part, but I gotta say, sometimes I'm embarrassed, not only I've had to cut loose, and I've seen people in the UFC that are the top level warriors and martial artists, and they're just not really when you talk to them or watch them interact with people. So I think martial arts makes you a better person. Like I said, some people are, there's some people we can't save, just like, freaking surgery or CPR. We can't save everyone. but I think we help a hell of a lot more than any other, I think, activity in a way that no other activity can. Sports is great, teamwork, and you get confidence and stuff. But there's living or dying, and martial arts helps you live, for being attacked. You can't free throw or hit a home run on your way out of a beating or an attack, so we give the special skills to stay alive so you can do other things. So I think martial arts is at the tip of activities and the tip of any kind of sport. I think martial arts is the ultimate of the ultimate, whether you're, you got some smart ass wrestler and, he attacks someone like Herb and then one roundhouse kick to the head that, he fights over. So, it's we have our skill sets and we teach them to people to make them better humans. But I think without a doubt, martial arts is the end all of all activities. And I think if any kid could do one thing, even in front of school, even ahead of school, I would say it's martial arts. So I don't know. I'm a little passionate about martial arts. That's how I feel.
Nothing wrong there.
Anyway,
Herb, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, martial arts was my therapist, right? I mean, I grew up in a way where I needed martial arts to become the person I was, but then I realized that I needed it even more so because I probably carry around enough energy and anger and all that kind of stuff that through martial arts training, I can control that. So I fight because I enjoy fighting. I train because I enjoy the feeling of that training, and it gives me a calmness that I wouldn't have without it. So I have probably a lot of adrenaline, and as a result of that, martial arts was my outlet. Had it not been martial arts, that energy could have went somewhere else, probably with a lot of us. So for me, it became my the place that I go to solve my problems, whatever they might be. And in a weird way, I think that it does solve a lot of problems for people. It teaches you perseverance, determination, teaches you patience, because what we do just takes a long time to get good at. It teaches you tolerance, because you have to deal with a lot of knuckleheads, whether that's in a school teaching or outside of the school and dealing with the reality of the people. And then it makes you humble, because you realize at any moment, you could run into an individual like the pitmaster, and that would be a bad day for you. So, so you gotta keep it real, and I think that's the beauty of what we do. And I agree with the pitmaster. I think if you had a choice for kids to do things, I have 2 kids. They do martial arts, but they do some other sports. But if I had to choose one sport, I would probably choose martial arts, because I think it develops the individual. It's a very immediate effect. What you do has an immediate effect. The answer, the solution, the consequence is immediate. You prepare, you get in the ring, you get in the pit, you get in the octagon, you train, you win, you didn't train, you lose. And there's no other place in the world that happens. So it certainly doesn't happen in high school. It takes 4 years, and it doesn't happen in college. It takes another 4 years, or in your profession of choice. So it's a very honest place to be.
Michael?
Yeah, a couple things that I've actually had students come back and tell me a few issues. Not one is in Aikido, what we have kind of 2 different methods of, let's say, an enemy attacks, direct attacks versus Tenkan blending. So so if there's someone attacking you, if someone is coming straight at you, you go straight at them, and it's going to be a direct attack. Or you just blend with that attack, and then you can go into an attack. So we have Irimi and Tenkan, and what happens is in life, that happens a lot, especially if you're married. So sometimes you want to, there's a necessity to go straight after, go Irimi, straight attack, But sometimes you need to blend. You need to accept and understand the issues going on with those other people. And so that's kind of some things that have happened in my life and other people's lives that seen those happen. But to add on would be self-confidence. It really does develop self-confidence, as in when I was insecure about multiple attacks, someone with weapons, anything that could happen, that that's one of the reasons why I got into the Aikido and Judo, because I was a black belt. I'm a black belt in Aikido, Judo as well. But what happened is after a while, there was no fear, or it was like, I remember a friend of mine said, do you ever fear going into a 7-Eleven? And I'm thinking, not anymore. And it's like, there's always a plan of attack. Regardless, if something happens, there is a plan now, and that you now have muscle memory. You just own it. And so that it really does develop self-confidence. And also what I noticed is self-advocating. Some of my students that were very insecure are now standing up for themselves. So, and they attribute it to our training. So that really does, as an instructor, it makes me feel really nice to see that.
And I want to mention that when John, the pitmaster, mentioned about humility early in his answer there, I can say for most of the people I've dealt with in 11 years of doing this that have different disciplines, weapons masters, all that fun stuff. You know, people who listen know many of my repeat guests and stuff who are in different martial arts and different things like that are probably some of the most humble people. But then, and I'm not speaking from experience here because I never met him, never spoke to him, any of that stuff. But Michael mentioned Steven Seagal. And rumor might be, at least from the stories you hear, like I said, I can't speak from personal experience, might be a bully. You know, obviously there might be a certain story with rest in peace, sir, Mr. Gene LaBelle and Steven. And there's other stories about stuntmen being abused on sets. And that's not why we're here, folks. Yeah, we're not going to get to those stories. But most people have a sense of humility and are humble that I've dealt with. And I know these three in the short time in the past few days setting us up have that as well. But obviously there is different ways you can look at this. Obviously you guys can maybe explain this for me. There's the sport, which you all have been successful in different disciplines. But then there's tradition, which we kind of started tipping the iceberg on, but also reality. You guys have mentioned, say, if something happens in a 7-Eleven, or as Pitmaster said, breaking into your home, or, you know, different situations that are in life. How do you bridge the gap between sport, tradition, and reality of everyday life?
You know something they're playing right now on in my gym. My favorite karaoke song, "Separate Ways" by Journey. Oh my god, that's so cute. You know, Herb, you've been here. That's my son teaches the kids class, and he has my playlist. So he's playing some. Anyway, so what were we talking about, 7-Eleven again, or Walmart parking lot? What was the question?
I was asking, how do you bridge the gap? Because obviously there's the sport, like Herb has been in the Olympics. John's trained MMA students. Michael's trained students for competition. There's the tradition of the arts, and each art has different disciplines. But then there's the reality of things that, like you said, Walmart parking lot, 7-Eleven, breaking into your home. There's the reality of things that happen. So how do you bridge that gap?
I think there's two things. I think there's a sport which is very, very similar to real life. Like if you watched Herb get into a match, in the ring where they're doing it's a ring but not with ropes. But when he does Taekwondo, you're gonna watch him fight. Then if someone jumps on him on the street, the same roundhouse kick he used, he's gonna knock that guy on the street out with. So they're very similar. but he might have to grab the guy or get him in a headlock, or he might have to do something else. But the majority, and I'll say 95%, that's the percentage I use. 95% of my stuff is I'm trying to think of, I'm going to think of a funny word, like instead of bisexual, like by whatever. What's it going to be? It can be sport or it can be street. You can use them the same. A left hook will knock you out in the street or in the cage. A double leg takedown, same thing. But then in the street, if somebody gets me and I'm in a bad position, I'm going to go right for the eyes. You can't do that in the cage. In the cage, you get on top of someone, mount, boom, you go for an armbar. In the street, we're not going to do that. So almost everything's the same, but there are some things that are different. All of my fighters are my students getting their black belt, but not all of my students want to be fighters. It's the 97, 3%. 3% of my bandwidth is on fighters. 97 is on, kids and adults. It's from 3 years old up to 73 years old. But I feel so there's a little difference in the sport. The training is almost identical, but there's a little bit of difference in the goal. The goal in the street is to get home safely to your family. Whatever you have to do, you want to get home. It doesn't matter who's attacking you. You don't give a shit. This guy he's trying to separate you from your life or your family. So you have to deal with him. In the sport, I'm sure it's the same with Herb. Herb, can I call you Herb, or is there Master
Yeah,
Herb?
of course. No. We're colleagues. We're colleagues.
Okay. So it's a whole different thing, right? I mean, he fought in the sport, but then it's on the street, and he teaches the same. It's pretty much the same. The difference is the goal. The goal is in Taekwondo is to get a gold medal. In MMA, it's to get a UFC title. I teach a system called Hawaiian Kempo, and that is to get home safely to your family. That's our goal. The way we go about training for it is almost identical. My fight team and my belt class train almost identically. But now you throw in tradition. Tradition doesn't have anything to do with that. That to me, I'm a very traditional martial artist. I teach a very traditional martial art. Not one of my moves is wasted, and everything in my traditional martial arts class can be used in a street altercation. There's no wasted anything, and we use conditioning as our belt testing protocol. Everything revolves around physical conditioning for that. The techniques come every quarter, but that's how we test. But I went so off topic. But I'm like, I just went like this, and I was trying to think of one thing, but then it just went all over. So the traditional martial art is like I think the same would be with Herb. It's tradition. Our traditions are train hard and don't let anyone take our fucking lunch money. That's our tradition. We put on a gi, we put on a belt, we bow. We call the instructor, kumu or whatever rank they are. We bow in, we bow out. We do all that. We say our Kaji Kempo prayer every class. So that's our tradition. It doesn't. Our tradition goes with our sport too, because we have a lot of traditions that go along with our sport, just like Taekwondo. We have a lot of traditions there as well. My martial art is not MMA. MMA is not a sport. I mean, it's not a martial art. It's a sport, like boxing. Somebody doesn't have a black belt in boxing. It's a sport. Taekwondo is both. It's a traditional martial art and it's a sport martial art. We don't do that, and most sports. I don't think you can think of many sports like that. But Taekwondo is one of them. So, he's gonna, he'll teach probably the same things for his street guys and his sport guys, I would imagine. So that's how I feel about traditions. If you have good traditions, you have a good school. If you have, this is a bad word, I'm gonna say it anyway. Fuck it. If you have stupid traditions, you're gonna have a dumb school. and so I don't know. So that's how I think traditions overlap all of my stuff, and then sport and my martial arts street are there. So that's how the Trinity interacts. Ooh, that was long-winded, man. I went. I go.
No, I think that's all true though. You gotta, so I'll start with sport. Every sport has, whether it realizes it or not, has traditions that are part of it. So if you play baseball, I don't play baseball, but if you play baseball, the older guys treat the younger guys a certain way. There's a way that you earn your respect in that. Basketball, soccer, all these clubs, they try to maintain some sort of tradition as to how you should behave, what you should do, what kind of person you should be. The Right Stuff is a great book by Thomas Wolfe that talks about it. And it's an unspoken code, and we have it in the martial arts. Sometimes it's spoken, sometimes it's taught. Martial arts codify it so that it becomes part of what we do, and it determines who we teach and why we teach them. So if you can't understand the tradition of how we do what we do, you don't get to stay in the gym. And that means whether you're just impolite or you shouldn't be there in the first place, you'll be dealt with accordingly. With regard to the applicability of martial arts across the genres of whether it's in the cage, in a street fight, in the gym, or in the Olympic arena, I think that's one of the things that is extremely true. If it's a martial art that's full contact in nature, then it's applicable if you do it well in any arena. So I didn't change my technique for the Olympics, and I didn't change my technique, in the street. If I could throw a back hook kick in the Olympics and hit a highly skilled black belt that was trying not to get hit, then I can certainly throw a back hook kick in the street and hit somebody who doesn't even understand what it's going to be. So I always used my techniques in the belief that they were effective, because if they weren't effective, I wasn't going to waste my time with them in the arena, because it doesn't make any sense. And that's the one caveat I would add, without having any experience at all in the MMA, but just watching it and talking to guys like the Pitmaster. The MMA guys have developed something different and new that's highly effective, because it had to be highly effective. So they created techniques that never existed before, because they weren't bound by certain rules. So whether that was dirty boxing, dropping your elbows on somebody when you're mounting them, whatever it is. So in a weird way, they became the most effective, in a weird way, of the martial arts, because they combined all the various things that existed. They realized what didn't exist and could exist. And I've always been fascinated with that part of it. And as some of you may know, I commentated the second UFC, and luckily was offered to fight in the first one and didn't, because I would have been a different individual. And I wouldn't even consider fighting one now, because the guys are just so highly skilled and good at what they do. So tradition in the martial arts, the tradition of martial arts and traditions in the martial arts are two different conversations. Traditions in the martial arts are something that's been passed down over the ages to how you should behave, what you should call people. And that was all bound in, if you practice correctly and you put the energy and time into the sport and art, then you will have a certain amount of deference for the people who teach you and the people who are better at it than you, and you should. Then there's what I would call the traditional martial arts, where and a lot of this has gone away with the MMA stuff, especially. If you traditionally were taught to punch a certain way, and that was what they taught you because that was the traditional martial art, and you tried it in the arena, which I saw in the UFC number 2 and maybe number 1 and maybe number 3, you got killed. There were guys going in there trying to do something that just simply wasn't going to work, and they got handed. So the traditional technique of martial art needs to be put through the test of time to see if it works. I've been to the Pitmaster School, and what he teaches is effective because it works in the arena, it works in the street, and it works in the pit. And if it works in all those places, it works. How you behave, how you act, that's a personal ethic that's reinforced by your instructor and your peers. So if you go to a place, and I'll take the pit for an example. When I went there, those guys didn't look at me as like I walked on water or something. They walked in here and are like, if you want to be part of this group, you want us to look at you, get on the mat and train and become part of the group. Otherwise, you're just another guy watching class, right? And I was like, that's the way it should be. Come in, earn your weight, earn your salt, and earn it, and that's the way it should be. When I was coming up, and I'll stop after this because I'm talking too much, but in our school,
that's how we learn, though.
That's right.
In our school, you walked into my school, my instructor, we'd have guys. That was back in the day when guys would come in and challenge people. So you'd get a guy that wanted to come and train, and then he would get on. We'd let him on the wood floor, not a mat, and he had to train with us for 45 minutes. And then at the end of the 45 minutes, we all lined up and we did the circle. A guy fights, and then you move to the right, fight another guy, and that was how that's how we dealt with that. And if you stayed, I was 9 years old, came in the gym, and they're like, okay, do this, and the class, line up and fight. And I'm like, line up and what? I came here, and if you stayed after that, then you got taught. And that was the way it used to be. So there's something to be said for all of that. But these days, and again, this is having visited the pit master and then seeing a lot of different schools. Everybody has a different way that they deal with that reality. But we all call for some amount of tradition. Like if a guy walks in my school and doesn't have the common sense to act properly, I'm not going to take him as a student. I don't take every student. I'm too old. I pick who I want to teach, and if I have a student that doesn't act correctly, I don't teach them anymore. I just don't take them. I say it's not a great fit for you, and it's not a great fit for us. And I think as martial artists, we have to treat ourselves that way. And I think if we do, then we'll evaluate. People will treat you the way that there must be a fight going on. Do you hear that?
Yeah.
I'm trying to look around. People will treat you the way you allow them to treat you. You'll be treated the way you allow people to treat yourself. So you can just extricate yourself from it and don't deal with those individuals. So those are my 10 seconds, actually 10 minutes and 10 seconds on it.
Well, both conversations are awesome. I loved it. Now, when I wanted to get into Aikido, again, I'm from a boxing and wrestling background. I wasn't looking for tradition. I was looking for effectiveness. And then so what I luckily came across Suenaka, he was a street fighter all the time. So, but what happened was when he studied with the founder of Aikido, he was in the Air Force, so he got transferred to Okinawa, and that's the Okinawa. The Okinawans are very proud of their karate, and then and so Suenaka was asked by Sensei, the founder of Aikido, to teach Aikido there, and when he did, he got challenged. He figured 3 times a week for 3 years straight, so he had to fight these guys. And he says, I didn't always use Aikido because he was already a Gold Glove fighter, and he was in a couple of the jiu-jitsus. But what happened was he got there was a lot of respect in what happened. He wanted to learn Okinawan white crane karate, Hakutsudo karate. So he sat in front of Hohan Soken's house, who's a grandmaster, for 3 days. And Hohan Soken came out to him and gave him some size. And he says, stop. He had the size. He gave him a sword. He says, cut me with this sword. So Sensei first attacked him kind of like just not very hard. And so then Hohan Soken yelled at him, hard. So he attacked him hard. And then Hohan Soken blocked with the size. He says, do it again. And he struck again. And then Hohan Soken said, how's that? How'd you like that? Or something like that. How about that? And Sensei didn't know what he meant until he gave him the size, and there was only one cut in both sides. Hohan Soken had hit that at the exact same spot. And then Hohan Soken Suenaka became Hohan Soken's student, and then became a 6th-degree black belt in that style. And he says that those were the days that he was with the masters. And so to me, I felt that I'm getting some of the, instruction from original masters. And so that was kind of a pride thing, but it's also, I think, a respect thing there. But then also, though, when I was teaching my Aikido, I'm in a judo club, and my wife was a nationally rated judo player. So, and just like Herb, judo is a sport, but you go in there and you get creamed. And it was kind of like in football, bowling a ring where you go there and the black belt just beat the crap out of you, but then you're starting to learn. And then so you start to learn, and then it's really fun to start to learn that. So what was happening was I was doing judo for 2 hours, then the Aikido for 2 hours. And so next thing you know, what would happen, even though judo is a sport and they have limits, in Aikido there's no limits. So what I would do is someone would blend in and I would pop a judo, what they call katajime choke on them from a judo Aikido blend. So I was kind of mixing a little bit right there. So there was some fun with the mixed martial arts. But I think that really translated to the street as well. I mean, I was always thinking the first thing I'm going to do is resort to my boxing first. But there was a time where that shifted, and I don't know why it shifted. So, however, whatever kind of attack. So it's almost if you have to think about it, it's too late. So you want to, when the attack occurs and then you throw them or do whatever, you want to see what you did. So that's kind of where your goal is to get to. And I think the training, whether it's sport or however it is, gets you to that point. So, and I think the self-confidence right there kind of shows that. So that's my 2 cents.
Obviously would have gotten it from him, but he had to duck out for another class. But Mr. John Hackleman, the Pitmaster, can be found, if interested, at thepit.tv. Michael and Master Perez, before I let you gentlemen go, can we plug the schools and where you teach and where people can find you?
People are always welcome to come visit me. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area now. I own and operate a couple of facilities, one in Mountain View, one in Foster City. I work with a bunch of kids, but my most favorite thing to do is to talk to people. So you can always find me, and I've got a bunch of content that I can send you offline for free and enjoy it. And tomorrow I'm going to teach a bunch of Taekwondo guys something about something, fighting strategy. So, but that's my life right now. I'm raising my family and my kids and enjoying life.
Thank you, sir. Michael, do you have something you can? I know you had the website with the writing and the Aikido.
Right. Also, my Aikido website's on my. My Aikido site is also my author website at michaelhawley.com. But I study. The club is called Kintora, and it's primarily a judo club, but we also have Aikido and a few other things from Buffalo, New York. So, yeah.
Oh, you're up in Buffalo? Nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I had 4.5 feet of snow, and I couldn't even get out of my driveway just a few months ago.
There you go. Well, thank you for having me. It's all I can say is thank you for.
Thank you, gentlemen. And I definitely hope I can have both of you on individually for a long form interview on your individual careers. Thank you, guys.
Anytime, sir. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Nice speaking with you, Master Perez.
Nice speaking with you as well.
Hey there, Friday fans. We know how much you enjoy the movies. Enjoy grabbing your Friday merchandise and interacting with the Friday family, whether it be at conventions or during our particular watch-alongs. Well, when you're looking to get yourself masks, why not check out our friends over at Camp Blood Customs out of New York State and order your specific custom mask from any of the films. All orders are made specifically. Your needs and wants are. Make sure you find Camp Blood Customs on Facebook, Instagram, and all over social media and order yours today.
Hey y'all, This is Adam Marcus, writer and director of Jason Goes to Hell and Secret Santa. And you are taking a ride on Crazy Train Radio. Badass.